For you, the day Bison graced your village was the most important day of your life. But for me, it was Tuesday. I'm Liam, this is Rob, and welcome to today's podcast. This week, we are looking back at what many would consider one of the true great disaster pieces of our time. A cult classic that genuinely is so bad that it ultimately has to be brilliant. Others, though, they might tell you that it's just, terrible, that it's horribly cast, horribly acted, horribly written, and above all else, shows zero love and understanding for its beloved source material. Having now rewatched it, I somehow agree with all of the above. Being a huge Street Fighter fan, I spent much of this movie genuinely furious. But once I, put my expectations aside, I really did enjoy it for what it is, a wonderfully horrendous misfire. Now, Rob, how do you? I have to assume you hated this movie because let's be clear,
100%.
it's terrible.
It is absolutely. Yeah. I mean, sorry, it's a misfire on every aspect of Street Fighter. Every level.
Unreal.
The guy that directed this, Stephen E. D'Souza, is the guy that gave us Die Hard and Commando. He wrote those films.
Oh, dude, his back catalog of writing credits is unbelievable. What is it? It was like you said. Oh God, I've got the list here. It was unbelievable. God, I can't even find it now. 48 Hours, Commando, Running Man, Die Hard. Like the problem is when it comes to direction, the only other film he directed was Arnold's Wrecking Company, which in fairness, I think it's like a stoner comedy. It was his breakout here, and it actually was received pretty well. And then all of a sudden, no directing after that until his son comes up to him and suggests, "Oh, why don't you write and direct a Street Fighter movie?" And off to the fucking races he goes. The only problem is he clearly doesn't like Street Fighter. He's like, "Oh, so you're going to make a Street Fighter film?" Nah, fuck that. I think I'm going to make like a Roger Moore era James Bond movie and just force the Street Fighter names into it.
Making a film based on a video game never works. We know that anyway. You never.
Well, it has recently.
Okay, yeah, no, but what I mean, sorry, never worked in the 90s. Okay, so Mortal Kombat did what it needed to. 1995, it had the Mortal Kombat. You had the fucking tournament. Yeah. You don't have. I mean, there's no tournament in Street Fighter. It's literally just everybody fighting on the street. But there is no street fighting in this.
No, well, that's the thing. Like I said, it's like in every respect, it feels like a Roger Moore era James Bond movie to me. I mean, it's got the voiceover with the computer at the end, 10 seconds until detonation. It's got the secret layer. It's got Bison's fuck den, his evening attire, which is fucking ludicrous. It's like, make no mistake, right? If Austin Powers was made 2 years earlier, this movie would not have got made. Yeah. It wouldn't have got made. They would have been like, dude, we can't make this a Street Fighter. This is Austin fucking Powers. It's ridiculous.
I'm trying to understand the pitch meeting for a start, and there's nothing against him, right? But you're in a pitch meeting, you're going, right, so we're going to have our main hero be Guile, classic Americana. He is Mr. America. He's got the American flag tattooed on his arm. He's your guy. He's fucking blue-eyed, blonde-haired, fucking American. Okay, yeah. Van Damme?
Van Damme, for sure. Yeah? It's the obvious choice. But I would argue that this might be, above all, and there are so many problems with this film. Like I said, this isn't the film where you discuss, like usually when we do this podcast, we try and get to the, like, does it hold up? Is it good? Is it not? Blah, blah, blah. We can say unequivocally, this film is dog shit. The only question is it just horrible or can you enjoy, is it so bad that it's good? A lot of people, like I said in the intro, consider this film a cult classic now. And I went back and forth. I'm still not 100% convinced how I feel about this movie.
I'm not 100 kebabs convinced.
I'm not 100 kebabs. No fucking way. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, I'm watching it, and every time I see it as a Street Fighter fan, I'm losing my fucking mind. But then, I'm watching it as like a big blockbuster movie. And I've said before, I'm really interested in the big, expensive swings and misses. Because, there was clearly a lot of money put into this. There's a decent amount of talent on screen, but it's such a misfire. It's so, like, it feels like at every turn they've said, all right, how can we fuck this up? How can we do this wrong next? And they've done it all the way through. And as I said, it really starts with this being maybe the worst cast movie of all time. Like, I know a lot of people have a lot of love for Raul Julia in this film. And he's great in this film.
Yeah, Raul Julia knows what he's doing now. Basically, Raul Julia is getting his paycheck because he needs his paycheck. So he's he knows exactly what he's doing. He knows what he's in for. So just get it done.
Yeah,
But-
but he's also like, it's easy to dismiss if he's there as a paycheck. I actually think his performance is big and it's fun, but he's the only one who, like, he's not interested in the whole Street Fighter thing. He's looked at the script and gone, I know what this is. This is a really dumb 70s era action movie, and I'm going to turn this up to 22. And that's exactly what he does. Still, in my version of Street Fighter, I don't want Raul Julia playing Bison. I don't want Bison to be represented as he is in this film. Bison is terrible if you look at it from a Street Fighter perspective, is in the game. If you look at it from this movie's perspective, he's fantastic. But even if you take the Raul Julia thing aside, it's like, I mean, Chun-Li is a reporter, Balrog is a cameraman, and they make him a good guy. DJ is a computer nerd. Honda is a reporter from Hawaii for some fucking reason. I have no idea. It's like the only thing my wife liked about this film was Dr. Dalsim, because, and don't get me started on what happens to him in the end of the film, but when he's trying to get Dalsim to work for him, Bison now, in one way, he threatens him with violence. In the next step, he basically uses the surprisingly accurate promise of a science paper publication. And my wife works in science, and that's like the big thing for them. She was fair play. Like, I'd probably murder quite a few people if it meant a science publication as well. But the fact that it was used in this film is absolutely bananas.
I mean, you've mentioned
all the way down the list.
Yeah, sorry. One of the bad castings, the worst castings, was Damien Chapa as Ken. Like, that dude has no fighting ability or acting ability whatsoever. Even to the point,
so misused.
When he did the spin kick at the end against Sagat, that was clearly Steven Seagal-esque switcheroo, because it definitely wasn't him that did the spin kick. And can I just really quickly as well? You mentioned Balrog. Do you know who played Balrog?
I have no idea. All I could do when I was watching Balrog is towards the end of the film, he slowly becomes more and more Balrog from the video game. Like, every time you see him, it's like suddenly he's wearing the vest, and the next scene he's wearing the gloves, and in the last scene he's wearing the shorts as well. And I'm like, who the fuck is like incrementally dressing him like the video game character?
So he is played by Grand L. Bush, who was Agent Johnson in Die Hard. Not that Johnson, the other Johnson.
Oh, shit. Yeah. I can totally see it now. Oh, man, that's a great shout. Well, he doesn't save this film at all.
No. And what about you? Well, you said miscasting. I know he looks like E. Honda. He's a massive dude. I thought E. Honda was Japanese, not Hawaiian.
E. Honda's 100% Japanese. 100% Japanese. Why the fuck? Like, the thing is, right, on the side characters, I can almost let it slide, even though it's like Kylie Minogue is Cammy for some reason, and that accent she's going for. I mean, I love Kylie Minogue. She's not an actress. I'm sorry. No. She just isn't. T-Hawk is just wasted of some pony soldier with nothing to do, despite the fact that he keeps showing up in the film. He never does anything.
So T-Hawk had head damage the entire film. No, not the headband. When he first shows up at the beginning, he's got a bandage on his head. And then all the way through the film. So I thought there was going to be a link as to why he puts on the T-Hawk bandana. It's to hide, but no, nothing.
Well, they explained at the end of the film, like Jean-Claude Van Damme or Guile asked him, why are you wearing that? And he's like, oh,
and that was the worst ADR ever, wasn't it? Just the voiceover. Oh, it was terrible.
It was so bad. And like the only ones who looked the part are Vega, fair play, looks the part, and Zangief. Zangief, like, I mean, don't get me wrong, they go a bit heavy with the kind of comedy stuff with Zangief, with the whole, like, he can't get a thumbs up right. It's like, fucking hell, how dumb is this guy? But the rest of them get, like, Guile being ginger for some reason. Like, they've clearly dyed Jean-Claude Van Damme's hair. But all I could think of, remember in the 90s, there'd always be, like, one kid who'd come to school. He'd try and dye his hair at home. He would fuck it up and come in ginger. Yeah. It looks like they fucked up his hair. Like, they were going for blonde. It was too dark. Instead of getting someone in professional, they just bought one of those fucking hair kits from Boots, and they've turned him ginger. It's bananas. But the real issue for me is what you already mentioned there. It's the fact that they turned Ryu and Ken into a comedy duo. The fact that, I mean, some people say, oh, well, at least they made Ryu actually look, Asian. For some odd reason, they've gone for an actor from Hong Kong rather than Japan, but it fucking is what it is. But yeah,
I'm a big fan of Byron Man, though. I am a big fan of Byron Man, so I can. I was happy to see him, but
there's a lot of people in this film who I'm not saying I dislike in and of themselves. They're just miscast. That's the problem all the way through this fucking film. It's Like the
You
dude.
you want to talk about miscasting?
Mhm.
Why get Benny the Jet Akadis as one of Sagat's guys at the beginning, and he doesn't get to throw a punch or swing a kick?
They make so many strange choices. Like this is when you know it's not a Street Fighter film. Like they have no interest in it. At the start of the film, they set up a fight between Vega and Ryu. Yeah.
Yeah.
And what do? They don't have the fight. They don't let, like, they literally said, like, at least let them have the fight before Guile drives through the fucking door or through the building. No, you're not having the fight. Why would you have
Oh,
why
I
would you
lost
have the street fight in a film called Street Fighter, for fuck's sake?
Why is Guile driving through as well with what looks like nuclear tipped warheads strapped to his tank?
I don't know. Maybe you should have used that at the end of the film rather than, I don't know, one fucking speedboat against apparently a whole army. I'm never clear on Bison's plan, but we'll get to that in a moment. But yeah, it's weird, like you said, with the casting, because not only do they waste all of the characters in the film, like I said, they make DJ a computer nerd, like loads of them are just side characters. They don't really have anything to do. They don't hold anything back. They make up a character rather than using one of the other ones. Like Captain Sawada, he's the guy where, you know, when just before they head out on their mission in his
I know who
speedboat.
Captain Sawada is, yeah.
Yeah, he stands up. He's played by Kenya Sawada, so they just took his second name and just thought, fuck, we'll put that in the game. He actually auditioned for Ryu, didn't get the role, but they're like, oh, we'll put him in the film anyway. We'll make up a character. Not only do they give him lines when he clearly can't speak English, but he's involved in like the final shot of the film when they all do the pose. It's like all the famous characters, and then Captain Sawada, who's just not a character. Oh my god, the choices they made in this film.
That fucking pose, I wrote it down, right? Going straight to the end. Quick, there's an explosion. Let's pose. Like, what the fuck? That was almost as bad as the Predator end credits.
Oh, I mean, I love the Predator. I mean, the end credits, speaking of end credits, did you stick around for those of this film?
I turned it off, dude. I'd had enough.
Dude, there's an absolutely bonkers and very blatant reference to Good Morning Vietnam in the credits.
Sorry, I did get that. Well, they do it halfway through, don't they? The Good Morning Shadaloo. It does it.
Yeah.
But
then they have like the radio show. Like there's basically a brief radio clip, which is as if, oh, this is Good Morning Shadaloo. But in the credits, it's so many aspects of this film are so weird. And as I was watching it, I was like, is this the worst video game adaptation of all time? Like, it'd be easy to say yes.
No, it's not.
But the thing is, it's not even the worst Street Fighter adaptation. Like, if you look on IMDb, this got 4.0, which is mega low on IMDb. What is it? The Legend of Chun-Li in 2009 with Kristen Krug and Chris Klein. 3.7.
Yeah, I looked at that as well.
That puts it in the rarefied air of the likes of the Hungover Games, Stan Helsing, The Love Guru, and X versus Sever. This is how bad that goddamn film is, and it's only slightly worse than this. But
if you take the Uwe Ball video game films out of it, because they're going to be the terrible ones. Yeah. The first Resident Evil, I think, is absolutely awful. I think it's one of the worst.
The first Resident Evil.
Yeah,
I think it's better than most of the sequels.
I don't like.
They're all quite bad. Yeah, they're all quite bad.
Introduce a character that's one thing that I've always hated about video game. That's where they always get it wrong, because it's based on characters from the video games, but then they introduce new characters. They've done it in 2021 with the new Mortal Kombat. They introduced, and I love the actor that plays him. I can't remember his name at the moment, but they introduced Cole Carter or whatever his name is.
I get it though. Like the only thing, because it was one of the things I have down for this film actually, was like Guile is so far removed from Guile the video game, and they have so little interest, obviously, in the game itself, that it's almost the point, like, why don't you just make up a character like they did in Mortal Kombat? And from a narrative perspective, what it does is remove any pressure, because I think, especially if you're like in this film, it doesn't really matter because they're not taking any of them serious. Like I said, Honda's Hawaiian and he works in he's a cameraman and all this other nonsense. Like Charlie is Blanca. Charlie and Blanca are two separate characters. Like, I'm not sure if you're aware of that.
Charlie Nash, isn't he?
Yeah. He's like, which is right. He's Guile's friend, but he's nothing to do with Black. Oh, fucking unbelievable.
Thank you for mentioning him. It's fucking Guile's fault that Carlos Blanca, Charlie,
totally throws her under the bus.
Yeah. Oh, like to all you hostages, if you can hear me, we're coming for you. Charlie, hold on, mate. Charlie, hold on. Fucking hell,
Charlie,
dude.
who's definitely there. Charlie, hold
Yeah.
on, buddy. I'm coming for you, buddy.
Like it's like if I ended up having super strength and watching some birds and a birthday party then made me half good, I'd definitely be ripping Giles' head off because he fucking caused this shit.
And let's be clear, Guile clearly wants him dead because there's only one thing that happens faster in this movie than Guile being pronounced dead after he's fake shot by Ken, where they literally go up, a woman just kind of puts her hand against him and goes, he's 100% dead, just throws the blanket on him, no CPR, no double checks for, is he breathing? It's just like, his pulse is pretty low, he's probably dead, just call it. Is when he shows up and he sees Blanca, and Charlie / Blanca, and Blanca's like, I'm a monster. How quickly does fucking Guile pull the gun and go like, yeah, it's probably best we put a couple of bullets in you. No questions. I said, is this reversible? You might be okay. You're still clearly in there, i.e. you're speaking to me as, in a human manner. You may, sure, that eyebrow thing's looking pretty fucked up. You're green and we have to do something about that bonnet. But I don't think it's immediately just like, let's just shoot him. Like, goddamn, Guile.
Put this fuck out of his misery. He needs to go. You mentioned Guile getting shot at the beginning, and they put the blank. I love why they kept the charade up though, right? And they moved him to the morgue, put the blanket over him in the morgue because once he's behind closed doors, doesn't matter. But they moved it. But they also put the I don't know the home in Beacon computer next to him in the morgue.
Yeah, of course.
Why?
There is officially no answer to that. There's no answer to that. It's like, why are you still pretending to be dead and laying down in the morgue just so you can scare Chun-Li? What the fuck is going on in this film?
Did they know Chun-Li was coming into it as well? Like, we know Chun-Li's more than just
they're clearly all over it. But that's the thing with this film. Like, it takes turns at being overly seriously and overly dumb, and it just keeps going back and forth, back and forth. The tone is as mental as the casting.
Yeah.
As you said, I literally struggled to find anything that worked with this film. The only thing I could come up with is the idea of Shadaloo being a real place. Like, the idea of a Southeast Asian country being taken over via like a military coup by Bison as a dictator isn't a bad concept. And then you get like a kind of whatever they are, like a militarized version of the EU. Like, that's not actually a terrible concept as a starting point for a genuinely decent Street Fighter film. And it's not a million miles away from what they do in, bizarrely, the best and the worst Street Fighter adaptations came out the same year, which is bananas. This came out in 1994 in the US, where we all saw it. In Japan, and it took a few years later to come to us, but it was massive for me. Dude, the anime one from 1994 is so good. Like, it looks amazing.
Great. Yeah,
it's got that soundtrack by Alice in Chains. Like, the way they deal with Bison is genuinely scary. Sagat is, I don't know, not 5'7" like he is in this film. I mean, that was another thing. Sorry, this is turning into a bit of a rant. But like, you keep having these moments when they're like, dude, they really fucking hate Street Fighter. At the end, you have Ken fighting Sagat and Vega. You're like, well, this is shit, unearned, but at least they're fighting. They then get Ken to fight Sagat and Ryu to fight Vega. What the fuck is going on with this film? Like, that's his most famous bout outside of like, Akuma. It's like, you see, like, what did Street Fighter the animated movie start with? It started with Ryu versus Sagat, like, because that's a big deal in the video games. And in this, they're handed the fight, and they still like, nah, fuck that. We're not going to do that. We're going to piss everyone off instead. Just terrible decision after terrible decision.
Can I speak? You did your Liam
sorry,
thing,
mate. Sorry,
I need to go back. I need to go back about 10 minutes to the beginning of what you said, where they get on the one boat to go down to Bison's Island because they haven't been able to find where Bison is. But when they get in the boat to go to Bison, it's a straight shot on the river. So they're all in Shadaloo. Okay, that's fine. They're in Shadaloo. They're trying to take Shadaloo away from Bison. But then they they sail a straight shot down the river.
Just down the river, not very far.
He's there. As soon as you get there, there'll be lots of little islands on this river, and you're not gonna go, There's Bison's one right there. That
Yeah, the big
definitely
one.
looks like the big one.
The
With
big
the fucking
huge with the
the
layer.
castle. The one
Yeah,
with
yeah.
the
Like
castle.
it
With the armed
literally.
guards outside.
No, we're
one.
not. We haven't got any intel to back that up, dude. I'm pretty sure that's an evil layer. 100%, that's an evil layer. It's ridiculous. And the thing is, right, as dumb as that is, like, again, this kind of whole like it's either too dumb or too serious, blah blah blah. It's like on the one side, you've got Guile's plan, which is let's go up the river in a speedboat. And let's not forget, the 90s was the era of the cinematic speedboat, if you will. There was like a brief obsession with them, which has long since passed.
That boat reminded me of Thunder in Paradise.
That's exactly what it reminded me of as well. Yeah. Exactly. And then on the other side, you've got Bison's plan, which is never made clear. At one point, he's planning on abducting the Queen of England. What the fuck is going on here? He's got
to make the exchange rate £5 to $1 or something like that.
It's ludicrous. And he comes across, and again, he gets away with it because Raul Julia is going for it. He's 12. But Bison is both a buffoon in this film and, dare I say, a bitch. We had a similar problem last, with previous podcasts where, the bad guy, what was it? Shortcut in Gladiator from 1992. Our big issue is like you build him up as the bad guy, and then you get to the fight, you're like, man, I think this guy's a bitch. And it's the same with Bison. Like, there's a cool scene in the opening. This film actually opens pretty well, where Bison just snaps two guys' necks, back to back. You really get two neck snaps back to back. And I was like, God damn. Like, Raul Julia is not fucking around. For the rest of the film, he acts like a buffoon. And when he does fight, he gets his ass kicked by Chun-Li. He gets killed twice by Guile. Both times like a bitch. It's
totally insane, isn't it? Because he becomes a parody of himself. He's meant to be this unstoppable killer general, and he, like you said, two neck snaps. And all of a sudden, everything is how insane he is. Like, we need to make the food court bigger because all the franchises will want to come to my Bison Island or wherever it is. I have Bison bucks or Bison dollars.
Yeah.
This whole thing when he was trying to woo Chun-Li and he's stripping off and he takes off his Bison hat and puts another Bison hat on. And
that's when it tiptoes over, when you're just like, am I watching the best film of all time or is this a piece of shit? It's so silly. It's so silly.
And Chun-Li shit as well, her and a guy. I mean, fucking hell. The fact she's using nearly a £600 man and they're trying to be stealth. How many times are they going to get caught?
All the times. They get caught all the times. I love the fact, again, you just wouldn't get it in a movie now where Bison captures her and there's no threat of violence. It's just like, I'm going to dress you up in pinky S&M gear, whatever it is, like with the handcuffs and everything.
To be fair, she looked awesome.
She does look kind of hot, but again, it's a pretty mental thing to do. I'm going to take you back to my sex layer where, like, did you notice the chandelier in that room? Like, they made a big deal of it. Like, the camera pans down as if to say, somebody spent a lot of time making this bone chandelier, which doesn't belong in that room at all because it's got, like, his goofy art on the side. He's got his smoking jacket, his evening sex hat, and, my plan is what? I'm going to fuck Chun-Li?
Also, right.
Okay, sure, why not?
When he's trying to impress her by doing the cocktails, he's already had somebody come in and start the cocktail for him because he's getting changed and he walks over to the bar and it's already in the shaker. He gives it 3 shakes, puts it in the fucking glasses, and then takes her over to her and tells her it was a Tuesday when he killed her dad. Like, the whole thing about it is absolutely nuts.
Well, at least he's dressed well. And that is the thing. They obviously knew that one of the coolest things of this film was Bison's outfit, because I'm not sure if you noticed, but one of the top credits at the start of this film is Bison costume design. It's like fucking fourth build. It's like when you see it, like usually you think, that's like in the end credits. It's like on like, I don't know, the second or third minute of credits. No, this is at the front of the movie, big letters, like just after, I don't know, the director and fucking Jean-Claude Van Damme, Bison costume design. I was like, wow, you guys are proud as punch with that suit. Don't get me wrong, the suit is actually pretty cool. And we're big fans of his evening wear. But you've got a problem when that is like your fourth build thing for a movie, which stars like 72 characters.
That's great. And then you get the FX designer, or sorry, not the I don't know, the makeup artist or whoever turned Blanca into Blanca, because he looked awful. There's no muscles on this dude for a start.
So bad.
So
yeah, couldn't they have found a dude who was shredded? Like, what the fuck? He doesn't have to do much.
honestly
Like you don't need the same actor. I don't buy into this idea. You could have just got the guy to act as Charlie, and then when he comes out of the machine, you get some dude. He's absolutely shredded to bits, and you don't give him that fucking 90s whatever haircut. You make his hair wild, but the effects in this film are pretty bad. They clearly blew all their budget on getting Jean-Claude Van Damme and Raul Julia, apparently. But the look of Blanca is borderline unforgivable. The thing is, what they did with Dalsim was dog shit as well. I mean, I like the fact that it was the dude from Temple of Doom. I quite enjoyed that, but I mean, that's got nothing to do with this film. But I don't even know what happened to Dalsim. Like, did Dalsim fall into the genetic slush puppy stuff? So it made him lose his hair. And I assume they're hinting that if there was a sequel, that's what would give him his stretchy arm powers.
They ran into the fire, didn't they? They both deserved not to go into the normal world. So they just ran into the fire.
Yeah, but before that, they made a thing of him being bald all of a sudden. Like, what? What's the point of setting up Dalsim? Like, oh, he's gone into this weird liquid ship, which I can only assume from a narrative perspective is, oh, well, it'll make him bald and it'll give him his special powers. And then only to run into the fire with Blanca? Yeah. Like, that's what they did? Is that correct? They just killed themselves?
Yeah, they just killed themselves because they didn't belong in a normal world, apparently. Did you recognize? I know the answer is going to be no, but did you recognize Blanca as well?
I did not know.
No. So I only know him from one other thing. He was the bad guy in the Stone Cold Steve Austin film, The Condemned. He was the guy that created the TV show about killing people on an island.
Just to be clear, Rob gave me that look as if saying, the TV show from that Stone Cold Steve Austin film. I have no idea what you're fucking talking about.
Oh, you never watched The Condemned, do you?
No, I did not watch The Condemned.
So The Condemned was about a TV producer getting prisoners, putting them on an island and watching them kill each other. Classic. And the TV producer was
is it actually any good?
Blanca. It was all right.
It was all right. Yeah.
It was all right. It was the state of WWE or WWF at the time, wherever they were releasing films to star. They got when you had the Marine, you had the Condemned, you had the fucking Scorpion King, I think, was one of them.
I guess you find out pretty early, we were all surprised as anyone when early doors, you're like, fuck, man, John Cena's good. It was just clear, wasn't it? It was you knew early doors that as famous as he was, Hulk Hogan wasn't a great actor. But then I remember when I saw The Rock for the first, because you were like, oh, The Rock's going to be a fucking actor. And then, of course, I watched Welcome to the Jungle, and I was just like, fuck, he's a movie star.
Yeah.
Is it straight out of the gate? In the same way, I know he's not a wrestler, but we talked about it before, where Eddie Murphy, when he did 48 Hours, within 5 minutes, you're like, oh, Eddie Murphy, I don't know, can he be, this is a serious film. I know there's comedy bits, but, is he a star? And straight away, you're like, yeah, he's a fucking star. You just know straight away. And it was the same with those guys. John Cena, just even the Marine, which wasn't a great film, you're just like, oh, this guy's legit straight away.
What I love about John Cena, he wasn't trying to be The Rock. John Cena's going, take the piss out of myself as much as I can route. And
it's worked.
Deliver acting as well. And it worked. I think he's great.
Oh, I love him. And the thing is, I think he knows, and it was really smart, whether it be himself or somebody who worked with him or whatever, they just went to him and just dude, look at your head. You look like a wrestler. He's square-jawed to the point of absurdity. He looks like an action figure. And he seems to be self-aware. So being self-deprecating, he might have got away with that in the 80s. Now it'd be borderline ridiculous. But I mean, the perfect role for him is Peacemaker is one of the best superhero things, full stop, I've ever seen. I genuinely think it's that good. And it feels like nobody really talked about it. All those Marvel shows came out, and some of the early ones are okay. And I watched Peacemaker. I was like, dude, this is the best thing DC has done since Man of Steel.
Yeah,
it's really fun. And he's fantastic. Even if you don't watch the rest of the show, just watch the opening credits. The opening credits are one of the best things I've seen in the last 10 years.
I only want to play one more Did You Recognize game, and then I'm done, right?
Go for it.
DJ, played by Miguel A. Nunez Jr. Did you recognize him?
He looked familiar, but I couldn't place him off the top of my head.
Okay, so he's been in a lot of things. He's been in... do you remember Life with Eddie Murphy and Martin Lawrence?
Love that film.
Yeah.
Love
so
that film.
he was Biscuit.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, but as soon as I see DJ, I went straight away to, fucking hell, that's the dude from Leprechaun 4 in space.
Oh, that's amazing. Of course, you didn't look that up. You did. That's the brilliance of you. You didn't have to look up, oh, he was in Leprechaun 4 and then go, what the fuck is Leprechaun 4? And you're like, oh man, I remember watching Leprechaun 4 last week. That's the kind of conversation you have in your head. You're the only person who does that. It's absolutely amazing.
It was wicked. Yeah, he was in Leprechaun 4 in space.
Well, that's the thing. There are a lot of people in this movie where they haven't got much really of a big movie career for this movie to ruin. The only one is arguably Jean-Claude Van Damme. And the question is, did this wreck his A-list movie career? Because it could just be a timing thing, as he made Hard Target the year before. Time Cop also came out in 94. Sudden Death, which is pretty decent in 95. But then things start dropping off after that. Was it because of films like this? Or was it just the end of that era of action stars? Because
I kind of think
just him.
It wasn't a box office success, was it? So I kind of think he was probably... This is the box office success.
Dude, I had no idea. It tripled its production budget. Tripled it. So this film, like, I don't think it was necessarily as big a hit as maybe they had hoped, but it was a hit. Without question.
I mean, to be fair, I don't know, because like you said, so he did Sudden Death in 95, which I think is a good film. That's the one in against Powers Booth in the ice hockey game, isn't it?
Yeah. Which is insane, by the way. The fact that he ends up playing as goalkeeper for an extended period of time at the end of that film is maybe the craziest thing in it. But yeah.
But then he goes on to do The Quest, which is basically just another blood sport one.
That's when it started dropping off.
He teamed up with Frank Dukes, the proper Frank Dukes, to do this. And then Frank Dukes sued him because he didn't get the credits he wanted for the film. That had fucking Roger Moore in it.
Yeah, it did. But then he did
Maximum Risk, where he decided, you know what made me famous is me playing me. So Maximum Risk was another one where he played
himself twice.
Two people. And he did, and this is where it went off the rails. In 1997 and 1998, he did Double Team and Knockoff. Double Team with Dennis Rodman.
Bad film.
And Knockoff with Rob Schneider, where Rob Schneider played a CIA agent.
Another bad movie. But I was wondering, I was trying to figure out, was it a case of, oh, well, he made this film, you know, even though it did okay in terms of box office, it was seen as this, like, it was such a critical bomb. And I think a lot of people who went to see it didn't like it, but it was enough, like, it's easy to forget just how big a deal Street Fighter 2 was in like the early 90s. It was so big. Like the arcade was massive, and then obviously it went to the Super NES and Mega Drive. It was an absolute monster. So this one was almost destined to make money. It was like they were trying not to make money because they made such a terrible movie. And I think that did impact his, like, you know, potential as an A-lister. But if you look at the other actors around him, I think those roles were just like disappearing. Like, you know, Arnold Schwarzenegger, Sly Stallone, Steven Seagal, all of them started struggling in the mid-90s because the industry moved away from the 80s Macho Man thing. Like even the action films, you know, what is it? Like 2 years later, you've got Nicolas Cage doing those 3 movies back to back. You know, a completely different kind of action hero. So as much as it might, I don't think this movie helped. I think it was just a timing thing. I think even this film had been a big hit. I'm not convinced there would have been many quote unquote great action roles for Jean-Claude Van Damme going into the mid to late 90s because those just dried up or they were shifted towards other actors because they were doing something different in Hollywood. But yeah, it didn't do much for him. One thing I will mention about Jean-Claude Van Damme, he's always had a cyst on his head. And I don't think I ever notice it in any other film other than this film when I, for some reason, can't take my fucking eyes off it. It's really weird. Did you notice him when you were watching it?
No, I didn't.
He's got a really big like cyst on the top of his head, but he's always had it. So every film he's done, he's always had the cyst. And I've never really know. I was made aware once that it was a thing, but like I watched the films, I never even look at it. For some reason or another, in this film, it went full Quato mode. I couldn't stop staring, like to the point where I was like, "Did he bang his fucking head? What's going on?"
No, yeah, I kept staring at his ginger hair, so I was kind of missing it.
Oh, the ginger hair, man! The ginger hair. So many bad choices. I mean, do you have anything like positive to say about this film other than the fact that
actually I got it?
Is like, you know,
I got
kind of.
So I, 2 things that I've been waiting to see if we can get into the positive side of it. Zangief made me laugh more than he should have, especially when they're in the tent and they're having the conclave and the truck full of explosives is coming down to him and Zangief turns around and goes, "Quick, change the channel."
Oh my God. That whole sequence when they're in the tent is as dumb as this movie gets. Like that whole sequence, don't get me wrong, it is like, well, if we're going to go dumb, we might as well go all in. It is borderline Carry On Street Fighter at that point. The whole thing in the tent when they all go running away, again, it's peak Bison being a moron. Zangief, admittedly, is a bit more fun, but at least, again, he's one of the few people who seems to know what movie he's in. And like I said, if nothing else, he absolutely looks the part, Zangief. He looks great in this film. And the fight with Honda is kind of fun. I'm not sure about the whole Godzilla reference.
Godzilla, I know, that was
like,
ridiculous. They're two big dudes. Let's do that was a bit, yeah.
And then they get like two Japanese actors to watch it on the screen. I'm like, all right, guys, I fucking get it. There's like a couple of cool mods. Like when there's a fight going on, there's like the bathroom, not bathroom, what they call them in Japan, the bathhouses. Like the bathhouse scene from E Honda's level is on the wall. I'm like, that's kind of cool. But they don't use it for when E Honda's fighting Zangief. It's when a bunch of random, and it's like, can't you get anything fucking right with this movie? It's insane. Absolutely insane.
And the other positive thing I wanted to say, I want to find someone in my life who looks at me the way Vega looks at Sagat while they're in prison. Like when they're both when they're both on the wall and they're looking at Ryu and Ken, and then the way Sagat just the way Vega looks at Sagat, that was love never ending in his eyes.
Is. And I have to ask, right? You know, sumos. Do they have like this special power where they can put their mind in one place and a body in another, like E Honda does supposedly in this film?
Yeah,
I don't think that's the thing. I think they've made that up.
Yeah, I mean, my only other reference to sumo in films is The Replacements, where the guy eats 50 boiled eggs before a game.
Yeah. I guess maybe they do have magic powers, but. That again, just another bit where they've just thrown it in. I don't think anyone's done any research. I don't think they've put any thought into it. They're just like, oh, this might be kind of cool. So yeah, we've got basically the problem is Stephen E. D'Souza, who's brought us so many great films with his writing. Like everything comes back to him because he both wrote and directed this film. So there's just no because it's let's be clear, it's directed poorly and it's written even worse. So sorry, man, I don't like to shit on people, but this film's a real stinker.
That speech where he goes, "Who wants to come with me while I go and I don't know, ram my fist at Bison's ass," or whatever he said, made me laugh. That
is, I mean, well, that's should we go straight into favorite scene? Because
yeah, just one thing. Have you read I know you read the credits of the cast. Did you read it on IMDb or Wikipedia?
IMDb.
You should look at the Wikipedia cast list, right? Because it's fantastic. Because you've got the cast and they split them into 3 groups. You've got Street Fighters. So you get the likes of Guile, Chun-Li, Ken, Ryu, Cammy. Then you got the Shadaloo Warriors. So Bison, Zangief, DJ, Vega, Victor, Sagat, Dalsim. Then you got the non-canonical characters. So Kenya Sawada as Captain Sawada, as you said. Simon Callow as the AN official. I'm pretty sure they were running out of cast because you've got Benny Akidis as Sagat gang member, but somebody is billed more than him.
Okay.
Edward R. Pressman as the lonely cook.
Oh, no, not the lonely cook.
So the dude who was just, when he said, oh, no, I didn't let him take all the soldiers, and then it cuts back to that, and you've got the cook with the one pot. He's credited in Wikipedia, and I know Wikipedia is entries by us, but it's credited as it.
I think he's worth it because that scene did stick with me because I was like, it was all for a terrible joke. And then they cut away to that and they've obviously cleared everyone out. And it's a proper wide shot of him just sitting there. And the camera properly lingers on that dude as if to say, you get the joke, right? You get the joke. We're going to leave it here until you definitely get the joke. If you got the joke, okay, we can move on. So I think he's worthy of his credit.
He's a producer as well. He produced Street Fighter. And he produced the Crow and like Bad Lieutenant and
so he's done some good films as well.
Oh yeah.
Well, that's the thing. You name all those characters, and it is worth mentioning that again, they made up the character Captain Sawada, and yet they left Fei Long on the table. Like they've got every character in this film so basically every character that was available from Super Street Fighter 2. So Super Street Fighter 2 includes the characters like T-Hawk and Cammy. Those were added, and DJ, who's another one. They were added, after the original Street Fighter 2 cast. The only one left is Fei Long, but they were just like, no, we're not having Fei Long, despite the fact he's the most cinematic character of all of them because he's basically based on Bruce Lee. Like in the animated film, he's actually playing an actor who fights because they're so like self-aware of it. And in this film, they're just like, no, we're not going to have him. We're gonna make up this character, Captain Sawada. So I don't know, bonkers, crazy.
Yeah, go on, and let's move on to favorite scene.
When it comes back to the start, like this film actually opens pretty promisingly. I mentioned the fact that Bison comes across as a badass. He snaps two dudes' necks. And I love, like, it's got the decent premise and it's got Van Damme doing that monologue straight down the lens. I'm going to come to Shadloo and I'm going to kick Bison's ass. I'm just like, oh, dude, I might fucking love this film. And then it goes pretty pony after that. But my favorite scene is the opening sequence for sure.
For me, it's Bison and Chun-Li because that's when you realize this film is ridiculous. Bison and Chun-Li,
that is really good too.
Yeah, it is fucking insane that they're doing this. It's absolutely ridiculous. So yeah, that's my one.
Those are almost like the two different, like the clash in this film. Like at the start, there's almost a hint of a film that could have been good or could have been close to something you would have wanted as a Street Fighter fan.
Yeah.
And at the other end, you've got the whole Raul Julia and Chun-Li sequence, which is so silly, so dumb, that you can't help but be charmed by it. It's got nothing to do with Street Fighter.
Yeah.
You know, they make the effort to dress up Chun-Li, but thematically, it's got nothing to do with Street Fighter at all. But it's so fun and so silly that you're just like, oh, all right, let's just do this instead. Fuck Street Fighter. Let's just make something really idiotic. But most of the film, they're just these constant clashes between, like you said, doing like a Roger Moore era James Bond film and trying to do something vaguely related to Street Fighter. And those two worlds never really meet in the middle. So I prefer it when it's one extreme or the other, basically. So I think we probably picked the best two scenes there.
Yeah.
In terms of loves, for me, number one, Raul Julia knows what movie he's in. Number two, Zangief from Vega totally looked the part. And number three, the core premise, as I've already mentioned, of Bison as a dictator taking over a small Southeast Asian country and fighting against a kind of, as I said, militarized UN was kind of cool. So on paper, I was on board. It's just they shit the bed as soon as the movie started, sadly.
So we're not a million miles away. For me, number one was Raul Julia. I said it already. He knows what film he's in. He knows what he's doing. That's your love. What was your second?
My second one was well, you like Zangief specifically,
Zangief, yeah.
don't you?
I like Zangief. I thought Zangief was funny. The look of a lot of the characters, I thought, I'd say 50% of them looked like they did the game. So, but then
Chun-Li did briefly. Zangief 100% did. Vega did. I mean, you could argue as bad
Balrog Honda by the end looked like.
Yeah, in fairness, Blanca does look like Blanca, although it's just like it looks like a terrible cosplay version. Yeah. But you are right. It look, you know, no one's going to mistake as bad as it is. You look at it and go, well, yeah, it's Blanca. It's just a shit Blanca.
Yeah, and Byron Mann doing what he can with Ryu next to fucking Damien Chapper as Ken.
Do you know what the worst thing is? He would have been, he's from fucking Hong Kong as well. He would have been legitimately great as Fei Long. Because Fei Long's more lighthearted. He's got that quippy style. He would have been perfect as Fei Long.
Byron Mann is a fantastic fighter as well. I don't know if you've
he looks the part. He's shredded. I've seen some of the clips. Like, he knows his shit.
Did you ever watch Altered Carbon?
Yes.
He's great in Altered Carbon.
He's good. He's just not a good Ryu. Like I said about the whole, the people in it aren't necessarily bad. They're just miscast. And the fact that he is in 1994, he might be as close to a perfect Fei Long as you could literally find. And instead, so they're just like, they're on set. They've got the character. They've got the perfect cast member. And they're like, oh no, we're going to make him the, stoic Ryu. It's like, we're not going to make him stoic. Well, what's the point in him being fucking Ryu? Forget about it.
It upsets me, mind, that this came out in the same. Actually, I'm going to go straight into hates, right? And this is my first hate.
Go for it.
The fact that this came out in the same year as The Crow.
Mm-hmm,
when you look at these two films, you look at fucking Street Fighter and you look at The Crow, both different ends of the spectrum. Mm-hmm. Like, really, upset me. But that's perfect writing, that's perfect directing, that's perfect cast and acting. And then you get this shit.
Are you just bringing up The Crow as an example because we were looking at the pictures of the new film and you got very upset about it?
I did get very upset about the pictures. But I mean,
they do look rough, man.
Bill Skarsgård looks fucking fantastic in the Boy versus World or Boy Kills World or whatever.
Totally shredded. Looks the part.
Then you look at the pictures that they put out for The Crow and you're thinking, oh my God, you've missed the mark a lot. Yeah, I'm a massive Crow fan. I mean, it's not going to, like I said, it's not going to take anything away from the original Crow for me, but yeah, they've missed the mark.
And again, I don't want to judge a film before it's out. It might be like we all get caught up before a film starts out on these fine details. Like, I'll forgive the fine details being weird or whatever if the film itself is good. But when you're trying to put your best foot forward, and these are the images they're releasing, it's like it feels like the film's already fighting an uphill battle.
Yeah.
So the film might turn out to be great. Bill Skarsgård's a great actor. It's just aesthetically, it's a weird choice, man. It is a weird choice. But we shall see. We shall see.
DJ, I couldn't stand DJ in this film. I thought he was
so
awful.
Bad. So bad. Like, again, you think about the animated version where he's like an absolutely jacked like bouncer, and it's great, like very brief but very cool fight with Guile. And in this, again, wasted. Why even bother calling him DJ? Pointless.
And finally, the fact that nothing sticks. Like there's nothing. The entire, I can't even get my words off at this one. Has angered me so much. He's literally down the road. There's no explanation of why he's down the river or anything like that. Nothing sets up. It's all ridiculous. Why is the fucking Home Beacon computer in the morgue? Why did you put him in the morgue after you got him out of public? They had so many ideas and just.
It's easy. I feel like for a lot of people watching this film, it almost gets swept under the rug because so many things are going wrong in this film. Especially again, if we come back to the idea that you're a Street Fighter fan, because I'm very aware of the whole, like, if you're watching this and you're not so much of a fan, because I was in Game of all places for some reason. I think it was like in Sports Direct. And I just went up to the counter to buy something, and the dude immediately started talking to me. And he, for some reason, he brought up the Borderlands movie, and he was getting very upset about the casting of that. Now, I don't have that attachment to Borderlands. I've played some of the games, but I don't really give a shit. And I was like, he was getting really passionate about it, but I was like, dude, I mean, I'm in the mindset where even if she's not she's like 20, 30 years older than the character in the film, I'm like, I would see it as a good sign that Cate Blanchett's in the film. Like, above all else, I'm like, if she's in the film, you'd like to think that there's something to it. But then as much as I have that conversation with him because I'm not a big Borderlands fan, as a Street Fighter fan watching this, I'm just losing my shit at every decision. So I'm aware sometimes that as angry as I get at, like, if you're not a massive Street Fighter fan and you're just watching this as an action film, maybe you'll feel slightly differently about it. But then I come back to exactly what you're talking about there. When you start thinking about the plot or any of the decisions being made, no, none of it makes sense. It doesn't matter if you're a Street Fighter. If you're a Street Fighter fan, all it's likely to do is to make you a little bit more angry. But even if you have nothing to do with Street Fighter, it is just fundamentally a poorly written, poorly acted film, sadly. Oh, right. Shit.
Go for your needs.
The casting, unsurprisingly. So just everyone. Again, like you said, Raul Julia is great in this film, but even he's not. But that's a whole different issue. The fact that they waste so many characters. You think nowadays the big thing would be like they would think franchise, like, oh, well, if this takes off, we can add the characters in. So they wouldn't put like DJ as like a nothing character or have fucking E Honda as like the cameraman. They would want to save.
I mean, that's the problem you had with the early 90s. Well, you probably still guys today. These people from the video game, so we're going to chuck them all in. Like you get that a lot where we're just going to give you this name or we're going to give you that name. Same with all the Marvel comics and comic films, and like with X-Men. I think it was X-Men, the one with the Sentinels. I can't remember which one. It might be X-Men: The Last Stand, not the one with the Sentinels. Stand. Yeah, X-Men 2, whatever that was. Mm-hmm. And
it was just called X2.
All right, then X2. And you got a computer screen, and the computer screen then shows names like Gambit and things like that because they're just they're throwing everything at the wall to see what sticks.
Yeah, but at least with that, they're giving you like a hint. They're not making like there's one thing to like go, oh, look, these characters exist. Remember, we might introduce them later. Like the equivalent of that is like you're watching X-Men 2 and Gambit happens to be the fucking cleaner. Like he doesn't do anything else. He's just the cleaner or he's just the computer guy. It's really strange. 3, for me, the fight scenes don't deliver, which is criminal for a movie called Street Fighter. The choreography is bad. It's like,
and there's hardly any fights in it. There's more gunfights than there are actual hand-to-hand combat.
No, and they don't bother. Like, you got to remember, like Street Fighter, there is quite a bit of what we can only describe as supernatural abilities. Like, they're throwing fireballs and stuff like that. There is one hint of it where Ryu kind of does the move for a Hadouken, and it just kind of flashes a bit. But other than that, the only thing you really get is Guile at the end does the flip kick from the game. But that's completely overshadowed by making sure that he does his usual splits kick thing. So, and I guess Bison flies around a little bit like he does in the game, but it just looks garbage, man.
Thanks. I can't even. What was with Guile at the beginning? I got something for you, and he does that to the camera.
Yeah.
What was that about?
I love that. Just see, this is what this movie does to you, where you just suddenly remember something from like, another part of the film completely that is equally batshit. And it's just like, wait, what were they thinking there? What were they thinking there?
Yeah.
That's all the mindset is as you're watching this film. You're like, why did they do this?
Was that meant to be him giving the finger, but they couldn't give the finger, so he just does
I think
this
that's
instead?
exactly it. He just flexes it. Well, I think it was just an excuse to flex his muscle. It's just like, oh, look, we got Jean-Claude Van Damme, the muscles.
I had a friend uh, when I used to live over in St. Mellons in Cardiff, and he always went on about Van Damme's muscles in this film, like when he would do after he punched Bison at the end, and his muscle would ripple. And I'm saying, you want to see perfect muscles? Do the handshake from Predator.
Yeah,
and he's like,
that's the best.
He preferred this over that.
I mean, well, that's just terrible. That's just a terrible take. I mean, let's be clear. Don't get me wrong. Jean-Claude Van Damme is in unbelievable shape. Arnold Schwarzenegger was Mr. Olympia like 5 times. It is, and that was a film where I knew what it was doing. Like, I'm not going to complain. It's the Predator. That's ridiculous.
Right?
Needless to say,
you still got 2 more hates.
No. I think I've done them all. So I've done the casting, wasting so many characters, and the fight scenes are rubbish. I've literally got here. I could list another.
Breathe in between them, so it all just felt like one.
Yeah. I know. Well, that, like I said, I could quite literally list 15 things I hate about this film, but that would be ridiculous. Do you have any alternative titles? Which would be surprising.
We do. Well, technically alternative, but it's mainly.
Is it a lot of hyphens and yeah.
So colons. Argentina, Street Fighter: The Last Battle.
It's really the first battle.
Yeah. Belgium, Street Fighter: The Last Fight.
Again,
you're going to get a lot of finality in this. Just FYI. Canada, the Street Brawler.
Well, that's silly. You got to have Street Fighter at the very least.
Yeah. Czech Republic, Street Fighter: The Last Fight. Oh, sorry, I've already done one. Denmark, Street Fighter: The Final Showdown.
Oh yeah, they do. There is a lot of finality to all this.
Yeah. Finland, Street Fighter: The Ultimate Battle.
Yeah. Okay.
France, Street Fighter: The Ultimate Fight.
Jesus Christ.
Germany, Street Fighter: The Decisive Battle.
Oh, really? Fair enough. Well, Hungary, I guess it does end with Bison dying, so it is quite decisive.
Hungary, Street Fighter: Fight to the End.
That sounds a bit more 80s.
Italy, Street Fighter: Final Challenge.
That's kind of more of a link to the game, I suppose.
Mexico, The Last Stand.
Just The Last Stand.
Just The Last Stand.
See, in fairness to Mexico, they probably watched it and someone go, like, this has nothing to do with Street Fighter whatsoever. Let's just call it something else.
Right, I'm not going to go in alphabetical because I'm going to save this one till last, right? But Vietnam, Street Gladiators.
Okay.
And you want one that you said means nothing about Street Fighter or anything like that. Taiwan not giving 2 shits, right? And they've confused this with the film that was released in 1995. Combat Whirlwind. Combat with a K.
Combat Whirlwind.
Combat
Brilliant.
Whirlwind.
Why not?
Yeah. Combat
Whirlwind with a K. Fair enough. Do you have any facts for this one?
Yeah, we got a couple. Jean-Claude Van Damme revealed later that during filming he had a drug problem, doing 10 grand worth of cocaine a week, and an affair with Kylie Minogue.
Oh, really?
Director Steven E. D'Souza confirmed in 2018 that Van Damme's cocaine addiction caused constant disruptions during filming. The studio had hired a wrangler to keep an eye on Van Damme, but this person was a bad influence himself. The action star would often call in sick, leave the set, show up late or not at all, forcing D'Souza to find other scenes to film in order to make up for lost time.
Fucking fantastic. See, this was like the final embers of 80s cinema. All these stars acting like fucking lunatics. And finally, they were just like, we can't deal with these guys anymore. This is ridiculous.
So, remind me, you think it was poorly casted, yeah?
This film, poorly cast? Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, okay. Director Steven E. D'Souza deferred his salary to pay for his cast.
Bless him. He was committed to this nonsense, if nothing else.
The final scenes of all the characters is a real-life recreation of an animation from the video game, where all the characters are on screen at the same time and do their win animation.
Except for the guy who's made up, of course.
Yeah. Raul Julia accepted the role of M. Bison because his children were fans of the Street Fighter games, and he wanted to participate in a film that he thought they would enjoy with him.
Well, that's the thing. If you watch this as a kid's film, like, would they enjoy it a bit more? Again, the problem is if you're a kid and you like the characters, you're probably going to be even more picky about them than we are. So, I don't know.
The final amphibious attack on M. Bison's compound, filmed on location in Thailand, was originally supposed to be an air assault. The Thai government wouldn't allow the use of its airspace for the large number of aircraft the scene would require, so the producers changed the final battle to a boat assault instead. This is subtly lampshaded in the movie through Gar's lines: "An attack from the air is impossible."
Yeah, there is that brief. They do explain in the briefest possible way that this is why we're going via speedboats. Never explain why it's such a small army, and it's never made clear how big Bison's army is. Like I keep looking at his layer and how many people he's got. I'm like, I don't think you're going to do much of anything. So you're certainly not going to go fucking, abducting the Queen. I don't think you're in any position to do that, buddy.
Van Damme turned down the role of Johnny Cage in Mortal Kombat to do this one.
Oh, poor choice. He has come back around. He is now Johnny Cage in Mortal Kombat, or at least there's a skin, so that is something.
Yeah. This is
that's such a terrible choice. I mean, Mortal Kombat, which is obviously a comparable film because it was released a year later, wasn't it? Like, that film isn't great, but that was clearly made with love and respect for the source material. If nothing else, that is such a Mortal Kombat movie. Like, all the characters act at least how you'd expect them to act. They look how they... Oh, dude, he would have been great in that. Never mind.
So, who's watching this film and is not going to know? The controls to M. Bison's floating desk are video game controls. I mean,
oh, yeah. Yeah, I know, but it's such a shame that there's an arcade state. There's one reference to video games in this whole movie, and it's nothing to do with Street Fighter. It's like, all right, we're doing like a mind game. Strange.
When Dhalsim is showing Bison his progress on Blanca, the footage on a monitor of a man being shot in the head was real historic footage from World War II.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
What did Bison call it? Knowledge or something? Historical documents or whatever.
Oh, yeah. Why are they getting so upset about these historical documents? Yeah. See, he is good in this film. He is good.
Guile is a U.S. Army colonel in the film. Most anime and video game versions name him as Captain from the United States Air Force.
Mm-hmm. That is the least of our worries when it comes to this film, that's for sure.
According to Stephen E. D'Souza, Capcom loved the movie.
Really?
Yep.
That is bananas. I mean, maybe because it made money, I don't know. But hey, man, different times and all that jazz.
What else have we got? In 2010, this film was ranked number 27 on Empire's 50 worst movies ever.
I mean, it'd be in the conversation. And that's the thing, we can go down, the kind of rabbit hole of like straight to DVD crap. There were some truly horrendous films which are patently worse than this.
Yeah.
But again, if you're talking about movies where they've gone out, like, there's a budget behind it, there's stars involved, and they've gone to make a genuinely good movie, I assume, this has to be in the conversation. Like, this, for me, kind of sits in the same kind of category as like Batman and Robin, where you're just like, man, they just fucked it. They took all the wrong lessons, they made all the wrong decisions, and it just made a mess of a movie, which is interesting in its own right. When you watch this, and you're like, how did this happen? How could nobody step in and go, whoa, guys, what the fuck are we doing here? I guess they were too busy watching Joe Van Damme fucking railing lines or something. I don't know what was
railing lines and railing Kylie Minogue.
Yeah, apparently. Jesus Christ. I mean,
I got two more and then we'll end it there.
Maybe perhaps he doesn't regret doing this film. I don't know. I mean, that's pretty fucking awesome.
Fabio was considered for the role of Vega.
Yeah, I think he would have been great. Like, that's his whole thing. Vega, like, he's like a narcissist. Like, he loves the way he looks, blah, blah, blah. That's why he wears the mask, so he doesn't get his face injured. So it's like Fabio would have been a shout, except the fact that he's not very, Spanish. But like, also, who gives a fuck? Like, Guile isn't very American in this film either. Well, no, because they try and palm him off like he is American. Like,
but E. Honda isn't very Japanese.
They at least with him, they go, well, he's Hawaiian. Like, and I get it. Like, if you watch sumo wrestling, and I've bizarrely watched quite a bit. Like, when I went to Japan, there was like a big tournament on, so it was on TV all the time. And obviously, if you go to Japan, it's all cool and stuff, but the TV is just all, there's no like, oh, here's the BBC channel. Yeah. So I end up watching a lot of baseball and a lot of sumo wrestling. And what you don't realize is a lot of the best sumo wrestlers are actually from Brazil and one dude from Georgia. And it's, I tell you the strangest thing, but just because they're sumo wrestlers, you're just like, well, there's an aesthetic. You forget that most Japanese people, they don't all shave themselves. Japanese people just aren't very hairy. When you see a fucking Georgian dude sumo wrestling, you're like, oh yeah, humans are covered in hair. It's fucking gross seeing a dude that big covered in that much fur and that much sweat.
That's sweaty as well. Yeah.
Oh, it's a sight. So the idea of like a Hawaiian sumo wrestler isn't ridiculous. It's just ridiculous because the sumo wrestler he's playing is Japanese in the game.
Yeah, so because E Honda's Japanese. Yeah.
Yeah,
Right,
exactly.
last one for me. Byron Mann told
Mhm.
Polygon that while filming in Thailand, the cast didn't like the food, but loved the massage parlors. I mean, wink,
Oh,
wink.
dude, everyone was fucking. This, like I said, this is like one of the final throwbacks to 80s into overindulgence, where there's cocaine going on. Everyone's fucking everyone. It's just madness before, all that stuff is
So,
eventually not maybe shut down, but curtailed to a certain extent.
so Van Damme's doing lines off Kylie Minogue and a Thai massage therapist. Then is that what's happening?
Maybe, maybe.
Yeah.
I mean, he doesn't need the time because he's got Kylie Minogue. So I'm assuming maybe
Yeah,
don't know,
but I
Balrog or something
mean,
is going
while
on.
while she's filming scenes because he's not showing up one day, he's probably
Well,
I don't
I
know.
guess, yeah. I mean, if he's doing coke all the time, then he's got plenty of energy. So maybe he is just going back and forth between Kylie Minogue and Thai massage parlors. Jesus Christ, this must have been quite the time.
Doing a line off a ladyboy's cock.
Oh, dude, you had to go there. You couldn't just leave it to the imagination. Jesus Christ, you had to.
I'll give you that one.
So the next one is Hug to the Future. So this is where we ask the question: should there be a remake, a sequel? Don't touch or let it die. So the obvious thing is, let's be clear: we're not talking about a direct remake. I don't want anyone to make a remake of Street Fighter the movie. Jesus Christ, we don't want that. But surely, and especially the way it's going at the moment, where video games are finally starting to land in terms of commercial and critical success with The Last of Us, Sonic, Mario made like a fucking billion. There's no way somebody, and even on TV, like Castlevania is one of the best TV shows I've seen like the last 5 years. It's legitimately fantastic. So there's no way somebody's not looking at Street Fighter and going, can we do something with this? Because that's just not just a movie, that's a potential franchise. The problem is, do you go animated or do you go live action? And the thing is, I would say, like, in terms of animated, as we mentioned earlier, there's already arguably the perfect Street Fighter movie. Like, it's got new Chun-Li, it's got amazing, like, Ryu and Ken are fantastic. Like I said, Bison's Guile is fantastic in the animated movie. So I would say don't wait around for a Street Fighter animated movie. Just watch the one from 1994 because it fucking slays. So it leads you to, like, I was thinking if from your perspective, could Scott Adkins play like an old version of Ken, perhaps? I don't know, is that what we're looking for?
Yeah, Scott Adkins would be great in it, but
I was thinking, the closest thing I could get is like, because it is a ludicrous premise, yeah. But if you took something like John Wick, for instance, John Wick exists in its own weird world. Like, it's recognizably our world, but all the stuff goes on is like in a cinema world, almost not a million miles away from like your Quentin Tarantino's, where it's like it's our world, but it's also doesn't quite adhere to the rules of the everyday world. And I'm like, I think that's maybe the best way to go with this, where it's like, these Street Fighter tournaments are going on and everybody knows about them and all that jazz. So I think you could theoretically make a live action version of Street Fighter and make it work. Like you said, something along the lines of a John Wick, only a bit more colorful, should we say?
With the success of Mortal Kombat, I mean, it was a success. They've got a sequel coming out.
Yeah.
There is room for a Street Fighter film to be good. So
100%.
For me, it would be not a remake, not a sequel.
Well, that's a problem. We're not talking about another Street Fighter.
It's a Street Fighter film. Actual, So I would like to see another Street Fighter film, definitely, as long as it's done right. I mean, and not what was that one with was it Legend of Chun-Li or whatever it was that.
The Legend of Chun-Li is like appalling. But that's the thing. Like, sometimes when you see a movie and it's like it absolutely stinks the place up, it can convince you. It's just like, listen, this is so bad, it's a bad idea. You shouldn't make a movie based on it. Whereas this is the complete opposite, because it's so bad, but like we've mentioned already, it makes like every choice is the wrong choice. So you're like, well, of course, if you made the right choices, there was a potentially fantastic Street Fighter movie. It wasn't like, oh, well, they followed the Street Fighter playbook and just it ended up being a stinker. It's like they got every single thing everything they could conceivably got wrong with this film. They arguably got wrong. So yeah, there's totally a good Street Fighter movie to be made. So yeah, as to whether it'll happen, who knows? But like I said, especially, I'll tell you this much: if Fantastic Four and X-Men and stuff doesn't go big, and obviously, because people are writing off superhero films, but you have to remember, DC are restarting, and they've got James Gunn doing Superman, and you've got Fantastic Four and X-Men to come. Those are monsters, potentially. Like, they could absolutely turn it around, and, if there's a little bit of a break, interest could rise again, and we're looking at another 10, 15 years of superhero films. if those movies don't do particularly well, people are going to double down on video games hard because they're like, the big guys at Warner Brothers, Disney, everything. They'll be looking for the next big franchises, and at the moment, at least, you're like, well, the obvious one is video games, and Street Fighter can't be far from the top of the list.
I'm looking forward to the Uncharted sequel.
Oh my God, that film was ass, dude. Like, again, there is a good Uncharted movie to be made. It just does not star Tom Holland and Mark Wahlberg. I'm sorry, it doesn't.
It definitely doesn't start Mark Wahlberg. I was all right with Tom Holland.
I would say he's the big like, I don't even dislike Tom Holland. The problem is, and you're the same as me, this Uncharted should have been made 10 years ago with Nathan Fillion.
Yes.
It's as simple as that.
Yeah.
100%. And I can't see past that. And I just, like I said, I like Tom Holland. And this isn't me going, oh, well, if it's not fucking Nathan Fillion, go fuck yourself. I'm not saying that. It should have been him, but it's not. Yeah, fair enough. But that ship has sailed. He's a bit. Personally, what I would have done is, would it have been too distracting to have him play Sully?
I think it would be. But what
because
you could do now...
Because the problem is, he literally looks exactly the same as Nathan Drake. Yeah. That's the problem.
Yeah. Especially now he's lost the weight and he's bulked up for the rookie. He looks... I could probably still do older Drake.
Well, that's what I would have. I think they could have had their cake and eaten it. I think they could have gone between two timelines, and they could have opened with older Drake and then cut to younger Drake. So you could have still had the Nathan Drake.
Yeah.
I think they would have engendered so much goodwill, even if he was only in it for the first 10, 15 minutes, and you had older Drake as Nathan Fillion, and then of course the story went back to when he was younger. You can argue maybe it removes the risk, but we all know fucking Nathan Drake's not going to die. But anyway, we can't turn this into an Uncharted podcast. In terms of making one change to this film, or one change only, I don't like to do this. I don't like to, pick out names, but different director, please. It all comes back to Stephen E. D'Souza, and, whether it be the direction, the casting, the writing, it all comes back down to him. And yeah, so I would start with changing him and go from there. Despite the fact, and let's be clear, as we mentioned earlier, this dude wrote some of the fucking classics from the 80s. As we said, 40 Hours, Commando, Running Man, Die Hard. He's got an amazing IMDb. Just this sucks balls. That's all it is.
He wrote some absolute bangers. The problem is he didn't direct them. He didn't direct them. So that's where it falls down. I mean, don't get me wrong. This wasn't written very well either. But
yeah.
For me, making a change, casting. About 70% is the wrong casting.
Yeah, but that was why I was umming about that, because I was like, if I say make one change, I say casting. What I'm actually meaning is like 18 changes.
No, I'm sticking.
That's fair enough. That's fair enough. That was because when I was thinking about it, I was like, well, this is a case of semantics, and I think that's totally fair enough. In terms of video games, unsurprisingly, there was Street Fighter the movie, the game, the most redundant title ever for a truly terrible and redundant game for a terrible movie, sadly. It's not even really a Street Fighter knockoff, which is bizarre. Aesthetically, it's more of a Mortal Kombat knockoff.
Yeah,
with, the digitalized visuals and stuff.
The realism of the characters, isn't it? Against the animated backdrop,
Which is coming up again. We mentioned it last week when we mentioned Pit Fighter from Atari. It had the same kind of vibe. But it's strange because I didn't know this, but the arcade game was developed by Incredible Technologies, who I think were from Chicago. And then the Saturn and PlayStation 1 releases were a separate game developed by Capcom. And that was more of a reskinned version of Street Fighter 2 Turbo, but with those new digital graphics on top, which doesn't sound like a bad idea, except for the fact that the visuals were ugly as shit. It had a slower pace, and the slowdown, which is a technical problem for the game, was horrendous. So those games just didn't work. In terms of like a modern day take on it, I think rather than making a video game based on this movie, it comes back to what we were talking about earlier, where, with Mortal Kombat 1, where it's just Mortal Kombat 1, but one of the DLC characters is basically just a skin of Jean-Claude Van Damme, where he does the voices and stuff, and he looks like Jean-Claude Van Damme, but he has the same moveset. Basically, I think you just take Street Fighter 6, release a DLC pack called Street Fighter the Movie, where they all fight the same, but you're suddenly fighting as a Jean-Claude Van Damme version of Guile, blah, 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 all the way down. They just, not digitized, you understand, but they look like the actors from the movie. I think that would be pretty cool, because I don't want to replay the movie in any shape or form, but I think it'd be like a cool visual nod to have them included as like a DLC visual package for Street Fighter 6.
I would skin them as well.
Yeah, it's the only answer. I'd skin him as well. Why is it when you say it sounds so fucking threatening? I'd fucking skin him as well. Sorry, I know I took liberties there. You didn't say fucking skin him. There you go. Scores and recommendations. Now, This is a really weird one for me because this is my first one-star movie. Make no mistake, it is a one-star movie. And you immediately think, well, obviously you wouldn't recommend. I might recommend it, bizarrely, because it is, as much as we bitched and moaned and I get very angry at the casting and stuff, there are moments of this film of unintentional brilliance. And the moment you brought up was a perfect example. Bison trying to seduce Chun-Li in his sex dungeon lair thing. This does tiptoe towards the so bad it's good. And there is fun. And I can imagine, because I watched this with my wife and she straight away, she was like, I can't believe how bad this is. I was like, I know. She fell asleep within 15 minutes. I don't blame her. I can imagine if you and I, say, went and watched this in a cinema of like-minded people, all realizing this is a piece of shit cult film, I think you'd probably have an amazing time.
Yeah, you would, but you wouldn't recommend it to the general public.
That is the thing. Yeah. It's a tough sell to Johnny's whatever in the office. Just say, oh, you should watch this. I guess if you kind of explain to them what they were getting into, like, oh, this is because the one thing I'll say is most people know what Street Fighter is. Like, it's one of those universally known gaming brands. As I like, listen, they've got this so wrong. It's a complete piece of shit, but it's like an incredible piece of shit, if that makes sense. I think I would encourage some people to go and watch it, but it does come with some pretty major caveats. The fact that I would even consider it for a one-star movie speaks to its own unique quality, though, I suppose.
Well, this is interesting, isn't it? Because it is definitely a one-star movie, or in my opinion, a 0.5 movie.
Oh, a 0.5 movie.
Yeah,
Jesus,
yeah, it's half a star.
I don't think that's unreasonable.
I wouldn't recommend it. There's nobody... like the so bad it's good thing. I've gone out there like shouting to the hills for the film Rubber. People should go and watch Rubber, that film about the killer tire, things like that.
Yeah, but the difference is with that's self-aware.
Yeah, but that's right. And there are things like The Room. The Room is so bad.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I want to say so bad it's good, but it's not good either. It's just
Well, no, but that's a very good distinction you've made there, because films like Rubber or these films like Sharknado, I don't think those fucking count because they're too self-aware. They're trying to make a purposefully cheesy film. And I think when you do that, it loses all the charm automatically. That's why I hate Sharknado. It needs to be stuff like, is it the original Leprechaun movie where the director thinks it's great? It's become like this really famous cult movie. I think it might be the Leprechaun. It's one of those little fella movies. But
I mean, you're going to find out because sooner or later, after mentioning Leprechaun 4, we are going to do Leprechaun 1.
Well, that's fair enough. But like, my point is, for it to be so bad it's good, I think one of the major, like, basically when it's being made, everyone has to be trying to make a good film. They weren't like, when they were making Street Fighter, nobody went out to make a bad film. It just happened. I think that's what makes it a cult film. That's what makes it so bad it's good. In the same way, The Room is... Yeah, I would put it in the same category. Like, it's so beyond bad. It's like if you go back and watch like Ed Wood films from the 50s, like those are so not the Tim Burton Ed Wood film. That's actually a bit of a masterpiece. But Ed Wood's actual films, those are, especially in like short, like I've gone back and watched some of those. 20 minutes I find is usually enough. You know, like, oh my God, this is amazing. Where like the sets are terrible, it's shot horrendously. But after 20 minutes, I'm like, I get it. I don't need to watch 90 minutes of this.
Yeah.
And you could say the same about, again, Batman and Robin, Street Fighter, Gods of Egypt is another one I think kind of fits into this category. Where I would say watch 20, 30 minutes because you will get it.
I couldn't. There's nobody I could recommend this to that hasn't already seen it. So I couldn't do it. So yeah.
Okay, cool. Well, so we've got to move on for this bloody movie. So next week, sir, please pick a good one.
Well, our birthdays are coming up soon. Our birthdays are like 6 days apart, and you share a birthday with Dave, who joins us on this podcast every now and then. So I was trying to think, what can I do for so I'm going to give you a birthday present, right?
All right, go for it.
I'm going to let you. Well, actually, Elvis in a care home with Black JFK fighting us.
Yeah, Bob Hotep. And that's a great choice. I mean, it's cult as fuck. I mean, that is I always think the word cult movie, and you can apply it to different things. Like people apply it to this as a cult movie because it's the whole thing about like people rewatch it because it's a piece of shit. But it's not a cult movie because it actually made like 100-odd million at the box office and everybody knows about it. Bubba Hotep is a cult movie in the more traditional sense, where most people have no idea it exists. But those who do fucking love this movie, and for
I would
good
put
reason.
Bubba Hotep up there with Tucker and Dale versus Evil in that
Dude,
kind of
I
thing.
was literally going to use the exact same example. The exact same example. Nobody's seen Tucker and Dale versus Evil, but every one of the 10 people who have absolutely adores it.
Yeah.
And it's the same with Bubba Hotep, man. It's just one of those films where it's a great premise, brilliantly acted, a complete opposite of this, fantastically cast, but for one reason or another, it didn't catch on. 12 people saw it, but we all adore it. So I'm sure the 12 people who watch this film will hopefully listen to this podcast and love it as much as we do. Spoiler alert, it's like the opposite of this. We knew going into this film, it's like, is this going to be a 1, a 2, or a 0.5 star film? Like, we both like Bubba Hotep, spoiler alert. But I've not seen it in a while, so, I'll leave my... scores and recommendations until next week. Well, not the recommendation. I totally recommend you watch this film, but the scores will wait until next week.
Yeah, absolutely, totally agree. I haven't seen this for a while, and I can't wait to rewatch it. Honestly, can't wait. Yeah,
great excuse. And if you haven't seen it, I'm not sure how easy it is to get hold of. But if you are listening to this at this point, if you made it this far through the podcast, try and get your hands on Bubba Hotep. You will not regret it. Absolute classic. Anything else before we wrap it up?
No, nothing from me.
Cool.
Just thank you for making me watch such a dumbass movie.
That's no problem, sir. Okay, I've been Liam. He has been Rob, and you've been listening for some reason to us talking about Street Fighter the movie on the Hey You Guys podcast. See you next week. Cheers, guys. Bye-bye.
Cheers, guys. Bye now.
Oh, and before I forget, where can folk reach us if they were so inclined to?
Well, you can actually reach us on Hey You Guys 80s at Facebook, Instagram, and on Twitter. But if you want to send us a mail, do heyyouguys80s@gmail.com. Send us in your recommendations. Send us in your thoughts about any of the episodes. Just literally talk to us. We'll have a one-sided talk with you on the podcast.
Yeah. We're nice folk. Get in touch. But no, cheers, guys. Bye-bye.
Cheers, guys. Bye now.
Hey, you guys!